guys enjoy them. So Tara already kind of mentioned, if you don't mind, make sure that you are on mute and that your video is turned off. Sometimes, a lot of times when people are on video, it can make the quality, make it a little bit wonky. So be sure that's turned off, be sure you're on mute. But that being said, always love this being interactive. So if you guys have questions, type them in the chat box and we will answer all of the questions at the end of the presentation. And as always, if you have a question that maybe doesn't necessarily pertain 100% to this presentation, you guys are always welcome to ask. I love talking about nutrition, love answering questions. So if you guys come up with anything, let me know. So I'm gonna say goodbye. I'm gonna turn my camera off and we'll jump right on in. Okay, Tara, next slide, please. Okay, so let's start off a little bit with just some statistics around the holidays. When I talk to people, a lot of times people are just really concerned that they experience this massive weight gain over the holidays. You know, I've heard people say, oh, I always gain 10 pounds over the holidays. But studies have actually gone in and done a little. Sure I understand. I'm sorry, that was my series. But they've actually gone in and done a little bit of research on this. And what they have found is that typically most people only gain about 1 to 2 pounds between, I think it's the 6 weeks from Halloween to New Year's. And so it's really not that huge of a weight gain. But the problem is people don't necessarily drop that weight after the holidays. So they gain 1 to 2 pounds every round of holidays, and they never really lose that weight. So eventually it does build up more and more and more. And that is where the real issue lays, is you're not losing any of that holiday weight, and it's accumulating and building up to an overabundance of weight on your body. But the next statistic that I thought was really interesting is that 38% of people say that their stress levels go up during the holidays, which, you know, in times of stress, we tend to eat our emotions. We tend to use food as a way to cope with stress. So that's part of what happens with the holiday weight gain is you're stressed. There's access to more treats and to more foods. And so you're using those foods to cope with your stress. But in addition to that holiday stress, lots of people are also really stressed about their diet. They're stressed that they're gaining weight. And it really just turns into this horrible, vicious cycle. Next slide, please.
Sorry, hold on.
No worries. I probably caught you off guard a little bit.
Nope, that's okay.
Thank you. All right, so knowing all those statistics, it seems like it's a little doom and gloom, but that's not the case. So that does not mean it's hopeless around the holidays with health and wellness in mind. Absolutely not the case. But I think the mentality of previous years that you need to restrict on the holidays, you can't enjoy holiday foods, or that you need to over-exercise or exercise off calories, it's just not something that works. And so how can we enjoy the holidays with wellness in mind and just keep our overall health goals in mind? And when you restrict or you over-exercise, really what happens is you just feel deprived, you leave tired, and you just leave really frustrated. So how can we go through the holidays with wellness, enjoy the food without really going bananas, nutso, or completely losing health and wellness goals? In the next slide, these are going to be my top tips with how we can proceed through the holidays with nutrition in mind. So I've tried to keep it kind of simple, so there's just 5. The first one, relax and enjoy. Second one, practice either mindful eating or intuitive eating. Number 3, don't skip meals. Number 4, focus on adding color. And number 5, find joyful movement. And really, the first 2 are probably my biggest tips for the holidays. The other three will build on those first two, and you'll kind of see as I'm going through that what I mean by that. Next slide. Okay. So first off, telling somebody to relax when they're stressed doesn't really work. So what I mean by this is, let's take the pressure off of the holidays. They're already stressful, they're busy, there's a lot going on. But it's also a time meant to be enjoying time with your family and seeing friends or family that you don't see all the time, enjoying good food, celebrating. So let's focus more on that versus what we've really been told is that around the holidays, it's fun, it's festive, but you either have a free-for-all with food and you eat all of the treats and you absolutely have no inkling of health and wellness, or you're on this very strict diet where you're not eating anything, you're only eating whatever is allowed on your diet. And those are a little bit misleading, but it can also really lead to this over-restriction binge cycle. So we really need to transform how we're thinking about the holidays and really focus more on just relaxing and enjoying the time and the food and everything that comes with it. Next slide. And so this is a really good depiction of what I mean by the restrict binge cycle. So you go on a diet or some kind of change to how you're eating where you restrict certain foods. Initially it's going really well. You're feeling accomplished, you feel great. But slowly over time, the more you restrict, the more you don't eat those foods, you really start becoming preoccupied with those foods. You really start craving those foods. You want those foods. And then the more that builds, the more you crave them, the more you're starting to get anxiety around those foods. And the more the anxiety builds, the more you just finally are around those foods. And it's kind of like forget this. I just want to eat these foods. And you just go crazy. You overindulge on the foods. Then you start feeling really guilty. And then you start to think, oh, maybe I should go back to this diet. And it just keeps going around in this really terrible circle. So the best way to do it is to really just don't put any foods off limits. Don't set any parameters, any rules around food. Because the second you tell yourself, oh, I can't have this food, I don't want this food, all your brain hears is, I want that food. That food is something that I need. And so it's really setting you up for failure. You're not going to be able to succeed because eventually you will have a point where you go and overindulge on that food. So you're better off to just honor your cravings in a mindful way, enjoying the food, and then just not having as much stress about the holidays when it comes to food. Let the holidays be stressful in a different way. Don't let it be stressful around what you're eating and how you're enjoying foods. Next slide. And so one thing, I thought this was kind of, as I was thinking through this presentation, a lot of times we have one big holiday meal. Yes, you might have holiday parties trickled in there, multiple holidays, but in reality, you eat over 1,000 meals per year if you're eating 3 meals a day. Enjoying 1, 2, 3 holiday meals and enjoying them completely, it is really not going to ruin your health. It is not a disaster if you have an extra serving of pie at Christmas. So you're better off just to focus on enjoying that moment, enjoying the time with your family, worrying less about, oh, I need to be on this super strict diet after this, or I need to go exercise a crazy amount to burn this off. Just sit there, enjoy the food, and let it be. And then also incorporate the strategies that I'm about to give you. But really overall, it's better off just to enjoy the holiday meal, focus on it, and enjoy that time, and then move on. Next slide. Okay. So these are probably the biggest approaches I would tell you would be best for the holidays. And I did an entire presentation on mindful eating where I really dive into a lot more detail on it. So if you guys are interested in that, check out the Fitness Center website. They have a link to that presentation where you can go and learn a lot more about mindful eating. But practice mindful eating, or another very close sibling to that is intuitive eating. And what mindful eating is you're shifting all of your focus onto the food that you're eating. And it's not focused in the sense of, oh, this food is healthy, this food is unhealthy. It's more just you are hyper aware of what you're eating, in the sense that you are aware of the texture, you're aware of the flavor, you're aware of the emotions that the food, or the emotions that come up when you eat the food. And you're just really focusing on overall how that food is making you feel, in the relationship to food, and focusing on that versus any other predetermined rules around that food. And you're just, like I said, you're more focused on the food and less focused on whether it's good or bad, and enjoying the experience. You're soaking everything in, and you're just a lot more present for the foods that you're eating and the time that you're eating. Or you could do intuitive eating. These two are very similar, but also very different. And so intuitive eating is more a self-care of eating framework, and it integrates instinct, emotion, and rational thought. There are 10 pillars that I've listed below. The reject the diet mentality, honor your hunger. If you guys want to learn more about intuitive eating, there's an entire website, an entire series of books that were written by a dietitian that are very helpful and I find very educational. But in the holidays, I really think these are two of the biggest things I would recommend practicing when it comes to eating and navigating how you eat through the holidays. Okay, next slide. And part of mindful eating, or even intuitive eating, is the hunger fullness scale. And it's really, what this is designed to do is to help you to start being more aware of your body. And what I mean by that is, how am I feeling? Am I feeling really hungry? Am I not feeling hungry, but I went and ate a snack? Why was I eating a snack when I wasn't hungry? Am I emotional? Am I whatever? It's whatever emotion you're feeling. It's just really honing into what your physical cues from your body are telling you. So it's a scale from 1 to 10. 1 is being about to pass out from hunger. You need to eat something very quickly, otherwise you're going to be feeling really sick. Whereas 10 is you are so full that you feel like you might pop, or that you are physically sick, your stomach is hurting. And so on that scale, you really want to stay between a 3 and a 6. I have 7 on there, but it's actually supposed to be a 3 and a 6. So a 3 is your stomach is growling, you're starting to feel those physical cues of hunger. And then 6 is you're satisfied, full, you just ate something, but you didn't overeat. You feel like you ate just enough, you're feeling good, you're feeling comfortable. And so I recommend using this in the holidays to just really, when you sit down at the holiday meal, take a moment to say, okay, how hungry am I feeling? Am I only kind of sort of hungry, or I'm really irritable, I'm starving, I should eat something very quickly? And then based off of that, you can really plan out how much you want to eat and really listen to your body. And, oh, I'm actually really not that hungry, so I don't want a giant plate of turkey, mashed potatoes, dressing, all of those foods. I just want a smaller plate. So this is a really good way to check in with your body, see how hungry you are, and how much you actually want to eat throughout the holidays. Next slide, please. And so with mindful eating and intuitive eating, really it's just focusing on the food. Is the food tasting good? Does it make me physically feel good? Does it make me feel energized? Does it make me feel tired? Do I actually enjoy eating this food? Am I hungry? Am I full? These are all questions that you'll be asking yourself as you're eating or enjoying foods throughout the holidays. And a really great example I have personally from this is the other day, I had a really sweet neighbor who had made a cake, and she had offered it to my husband and I. And so she brought it over. We sat down to take a bite of the cake. I took one bite, and it was a tres leches cake. I took a moment, I chewed my food, I enjoyed the textures, I enjoyed the flavor, and then I just realized I don't really like tres leches cake. It's a little too soggy for me. And so I took one bite, I looked at it, I said, that's not really good. I don't really enjoy it. I don't want any more. And then I walked away. And to me, that's really what the epitome of either mindful eating or intuitive eating is that you're able to have that hyper awareness around what your body is telling you and the foods that you're eating, to where you're able to be in front of a piece of cake, you're able to take a bite, and you're able to identify, I don't really like that, and then just walk away. And so that is, for me personally, something that I've been working on for years and years and years. So it's not something that won't happen overnight. This definitely takes practice. But you'll find that it's a little bit more freeing and a little bit easier to just navigate the holidays and even just parties when you're around a lot of food. And make sure that you are not having any food rules, that you go in very neutral around all of the foods that are on the holiday table. And this really does allow you to open up and then practice all of these mindful eating and intuitive eating practices. Next slide. Okay, so those first two were the bigger, my biggest tips for the holidays. Just relax about everything, enjoy the holidays, practice the mindful eating or intuitive eating. And then now these are more supporting to those first two tips. And first off, do not skip meals. Do not skip meals to save your calories for the main meal. In theory, that seems like it would work, but that's not really how metabolism works. Your body is not designed to go hours and hours and hours without eating. Really, what ultimately that is doing is you're creating a very small version of that restrict binge cycle that I had on previous slides. And what's going to happen is you're going to restrict food. You're not going to eat anything all day. And you're just going to get hungrier and hungrier and hungrier. And then when it comes time to sit down and enjoy that holiday meal, you're going to be pushing all of your family and friends out of the way to get to that table, to get to all of the food as fast as you can. And you're going to eat as fast as you can because you are just starving. You're not really going to notice the flavor, the taste of the food. You're not going to enjoy it. And really what happens is you eat so quickly that you way overeat and then you feel sick. So the best way to do the holidays is to have a good set of balanced meals before the holiday meal. So depending on how your family does it, my family, sometimes we do a big Christmas dinner, or sometimes we do it at lunch. It really just depends. But based off of that, if you're doing a Christmas dinner, make sure you have a good balanced breakfast that includes a good source of protein, a good source of fiber, and then do the same thing for lunch. You want protein, you want carbohydrates, you want fat, you want fiber. And then even maybe have a snack about an hour or two before the meal. And so when you do sit down to enjoy that delicious food, you are really feeling balanced, you're feeling not starved or deprived, and you're really able to practice that mindful eating, use the hunger fullness scale, and use that to guide how you're eating. And so you're able to make a lot better decisions when you are not ravenously hungry. I think that's all I want to say there. So next slide. Okay, so my next tip. So this is a time of beautiful, wonderful, delicious seasonal produce. So focus on adding color where you can. So things like squash, whether it's pumpkin, butternut squash, acorn squash, the delicata squash. There's so many different varieties of squash. Brussels sprouts are in season. Broccoli, cranberries are beautiful and very nutrient dense, packed with antioxidants. You can do persimmons, pomegranates. There's so many different ways to just add wonderful color to your table, to not only make your table look beautiful, but also add in just a little dose of vitamins, minerals, extra fiber, some antioxidants. And it's just a good way to make the table look inviting, make it look vibrant, but it's also adding in some good nutrition. Next slide. And definitely don't focus a lot of your energy on finding ways to make your favorite holiday dishes lighter or healthier. They're your favorite dishes for a reason. And unless it's something really common, you probably don't have those dishes more than once or twice a year. So if you just enjoy it once, it's totally fine. Let yourself enjoy it. Enjoy the full fat version, but then find ways to add in those colors and those fruits and those vegetables where you can. And just make a really beautiful, really filling, pretty table, and you'll leave feeling good, satisfied, and that you enjoyed your meal. Okay, next slide. Okay, so number 5, find joyful movement. And this is where I think the fitness center can totally help you out with this. But what I mean by joyful movement is it is an approach to physical activity that really focuses on pleasure and intuition. And so I think they really go hand in hand with mindful eating or that intuitive eating. It's really just honing into what is your body telling you that it needs. And based off of that, you choose exercise that feels good to you in the moment versus letting any external factors determine how you exercise. And so what I mean by that is instead of enjoying a dessert at Christmas or whatever holiday, and then feeling like, oh, I have to go do a 30-minute HIIT class because I enjoyed that piece of pie, focus more on, man, it's been a really long, busy holiday season. I'm tired and I'm feeling overwhelmed. A really nice long walk outside just feels really relaxing and soothing. And that still counts as exercise. That's still moving your body, but you're doing it in a way that brings you joy, that makes you feel good and empowers you. And it's definitely something that you won't dread. It's not torture. It's not something that you're really going to put off. And that also leads to, it's probably something that you're actually going to want to do and something that you're going to want to maintain and something that you're going to prioritize. So a couple ideas for joyful movement throughout the holidays. You can do yoga, taking long walks with your family, going on hikes, doing family games outside, like playing basketball with your family, playing football, playing soccer, going on a family bike ride, going on a really light jog. Any of those would fall within joyful movement. But it's also really important that you do understand, like, joyful movement can also include a really intense HIIT class that just really knocks you on your butt, makes you feel tired, but also really strong. I think it's just switching that mentality from, I have to do this exercise because I ate something, more towards, I'm craving that exercise because it makes me feel strong. It makes me feel empowered. And I think the fitness center does a really great job of having a huge variety of options for you guys. And so I think they can speak to the options a lot better than I can. But I would just find a way that you can incorporate that into your everyday throughout the holidays. And I think with all of these tips, incorporating them will just help you feel really empowered throughout the holidays. It'll help lower your stress level and just make you feel really joyful as you're going through this, through the next couple weeks. So next slide, Tara. That is all I have. So if you guys have any questions, I'll go ahead and open that up to you guys and let you guys start asking questions. Oh, I see you. Welcome back. Thank you. I am so excited to be back. I love doing these with y'all. Okay, well, I'll hang around for a couple minutes. If you guys think of any questions, you're welcome to come off mute and ask them, or you're welcome to type them into the chat box and I will answer any questions. I'll hang out for the next couple of minutes.
Great. Thank you, Karleigh, and thank you for everybody for participating and showing up for her talk. Like I said, if you have any questions now or later,